6:20 here at the Big 550 KTRS. I am Paul Harris, filling in for McGraw, who has not even begun to wake up to start his ride home from Phoenix, where he was at the Super Bowl last night. Kelly Jackson's here with me. And joining us in our studios here at the First Rule Film and Broadcast Center in the University Tower is Craig Kaminer from the Twist Agency, a big marketing company here in St. Louis, to talk about the ads that ran during Super Bowl 49. Good morning, Craig.
Good morning. I can't believe I'm up.
I can't believe you're up either, Craig.
Really? Craig was just telling us during the commercials that he watched the game going house to house in his neighborhood from party to party and had to tell people at the parties, shh, I have to hear the commercials because I have to talk about them tomorrow morning on KTRS. Well, now you're here. And what was your overall thought about the commercials in the Super Bowl?
Well, it was a great game, which is really helpful to ads. You know, if people can stay tuned, stay connected, want to watch to the end, that's great.
Yep.
Some of the better ads even ran at the end of the game, and that's awesome for the advertisers. But I'd say overall that I was really impressed with how guys were treated very fairly this year. They were sensitive, they cried, they cared about their daughters, they did good things as opposed to being presented as total
doofuses,
boobs, you know, guys who, you know, were clueless. And so that was a big trend.
It seemed like the trend comes down to one word, dadvertising.
It was. And, you know, the big joke at our parties that we were at was how were these guys really being advertised to, or were they being or was that for the women? And interestingly enough, at our parties, the guys are glued to the TV, and women in and out of the, you know, events. Sometimes they were talking, sometimes they were eating, sometimes they were watching. So it's hard to tell, you know, who they were really trying to reach.
Okay, so which one stood out to you last night?
Well, you know, in this whole category of pure emotion, I'd say that that Budweiser spot with the puppy and ponies was a great one. But since everyone's talking about that, I won't talk that much about it.
It's hard to go wrong with Clydesdales and puppies.
Yeah. I mean, you can't lose with that.
Yeah.
Right. And they kind of win because a week before the Super Bowl, people were talking about it, people were watching it, and people are going to talk about it today. So in the world of advertising today, it's not just the 30 seconds that you get someone, it's how much sharing and social conversation is really going on before, during, and after.
What are your thoughts also about so many advertisers releasing their commercials prior to the Super Bowl?
Well, that's what it's all about. You know, years ago we used to say when you sponsor a race car, it wasn't the $1 million you spent to put your logo on the car, it was the millions you spent before, during, and after the car ran around the track, because otherwise the $1 million is a waste of money. I'd say that same thing today. You've got to get people involved in it, committed to it, talking about it, so that when it comes on, everyone's all excited.
But the question is, do people remember what the commercials were for? And in the 9 o'clock hour today, I'm going to do my annual Super Bowl ad quiz. I'll give you a one-sentence description of the commercial, and we'll see if people remember what the product was. Because even when the commercials were good, like, do you remember the commercial with the little blue pill that goes flying out the window and down the hall and down through Italy, down the streets, etc.? What was that for? Do you remember?
I do. It was for Fiat, and I liked that one a lot.
It was a good one.
See that
but
one.
I don't think most people are going to remember the product.
Right. When you said little blue pill, when I was
you thought it was Viagra or Cialis.
Right. I think there were a number like that. There were some companies, Moby, which makes cases for phones and things like that. They advertised, and it was a very good spot, very good.
Yep.
But because people aren't really familiar with the brand in general, that no matter how good the ad is, they're never going to really remember the spot.
I agree.
So I would say that, you know, Super Bowl ads are for big brands that people already know, and it's just to reinforce their brand presence and their strength and their creativity. So it's not for the new guy. It's very hard for a little guy to come in and break through.
Unless you have a celebrity fronting it. Don't you think that
there were a number of great spots with celebrities. I think the one with Katie Couric and Brian Gumbel was a really interesting spot for BMW, although earlier in the week they blew it and they announced that they didn't even drive BMWs. So you know, that's kind of crazy. They are advertising. People think it's a great spot.
But again, I think that's a commercial people won't remember that it was for BMW. Oh, yeah, I saw the one with Katie Couric and Brian Gumbel. What was that for? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
So the one that I really like in the emotional category, you know, some people will probably give it more of a B instead of an A. But I thought Carnival Cruise Lines, which is run by someone from St. Louis, Arnold Donald, now did a really great job. A beautiful spot with Jack Kennedy's voice and famous speech about going back to the sea.
I don't know why it is that all of us are so committed to the sea, except I think it's because, in addition to the fact that the sea changes.
So as JFK's voice was being heard, we saw pictures of Carnival cruise ships and other things out on the ocean. I thought it was interesting they didn't use Ted Kennedy talking about being on the water. That would have been in bad taste. But and by the way, Arnold Donald's number 2 guy, Carl Sestak, also from St. Louis, who I know, is the guy who produced that commercial. And they're, I'm sure, very happy this morning to be hearing that you liked it a lot.
Well, it was a great emotional ad. I think they really hit the nail on the head that they were trying to get people back to cruising. And it was such a romantic look at cruising. You just wanted to go. At a time when, after the last couple of years, not everyone's ready to go cruising.
Yeah, I don't recall JFK talking about the Norwalk virus very much.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
but
also,
it was beauty.
And with Carnival, you think of, more families. And this was definitely sleek, and more higher end than you would think of.
I wanted to ask you about another commercial that ran last night, and that's McDonald's. Who they have this campaign now through Valentine's Day. You can go in and randomly chosen customers will be able to pay for their meals with, quote, lovin', unquote. You call your mom and tell her you love her, you dance, you do all sorts of stuff. Don't you foresee this becoming a problem in McDonald's restaurants starting today? People going and saying, hey, how come I have to pay with cash? I thought I would be able to pay with a phone call.
Well, they kind of built the ad up interestingly. I went back and watched them all a second time after the Super Bowl. The first time they did it, it wasn't very clear what they were doing about paying with lovin'. And the second time or the third time was really clear what they were doing. Will people get it fully, and will they expect it?
No, I think people are going to expect free food when they go into McDonald's today.
Well, if that's the case, they're going to have lots of problems, but they're going to have lots of publicity around it. So maybe it will drive plenty of attention. But I thought they did a great job, again, getting back to the emotional component of their brand, of doing things that had a higher calling. It was more than just selling you the food and hitting you over the head with it. They were talking about having fun and doing things that were great for the people you love and care about.
At the other end of the spectrum, how about the Nationwide commercial with the kid talking about how I'm never going to fly in a plane, I'm never going to get to play baseball, I'm never going to get to play football because I'm dead. Most depressing Super Bowl commercial ever?
There were 2 really big shockers. One I thought was terrible, and one I thought was really good. The first one, the Nationwide, I thought was terrible. It shocked you. It got its point across, but almost in a very awkward way, especially if you're at the Super Bowl party, everyone's looking at each other. It was not a good thing, I don't think.
Yeah.
The second one was actually produced in St. Louis. It was an ad to promote the problem of heroin, and it was really, really effective. It was shocking, but I think it got people talking.
This is that commercial right here.
First you stole prescription pills from your mom. You threw back a few, and then they were gone. So you're jonesing real bad, yeah, you need some more. So you call a shady guy and say you're looking to score. And that's how you got addicted to heroin.
Yeah, it's a little peppy, upbeat tune about heroin addiction.
Yeah. The music's quite perky.
It's getting people talking.
Yeah.
And everything that I've heard from last night until this morning was that people are talking about it, and I didn't even realize that St. Louis has a major heroin problem.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a local spot. It's not always clear which ones are local and which ones are the national expensive ads. But that one was done locally, and that's really exciting that they thought of that they had the courage to do it, and I hope people talk about it.
All right, Craig Kaminer from the Twist Agency here in St. Louis. Thanks so much for joining us here this morning.
Thank you.
I'm Paul Harris. This is the Big 550 K